Today, we're diving into a potential solution for a medical problem that has caused just unimaginable suffering for thousands of years. And what's so incredible is that the solution isn't some complex, futuristic technology. It's actually surprisingly simple, and it could be a total game changer.
To really get why this is so important, you first have to understand the stakes. This quote from the father of a patient just cuts right to the heart of it. A sickle cell crisis, it's described as this excruciating, almost unbelievable level of pain.
And this is not a new problem, not by a long shot. We're talking about a medical challenge that's been around for over 7,300 years. Think about that. That is millennia of human suffering, all waiting for some kind of breakthrough.
So, how has modern medicine been handling this ancient problem? Well, for the better part of a century, it's been caught in what you could call a reactive trap. Basically, a cycle of only treating these devastating crises after they've already begun.
And the difference between that old way and the new approach we're talking about, well, it's night and day. The old way is all about reacting. A patient suffers, the crisis becomes irreversible, and then they have to rush to the hospital, basically for damage control and pain management. The new way? It's a complete paradigm shift. It's proactive. It happens at home, and the goal is to stop the crisis before it can even really start.
So, where did this new way of thinking even come from? Well, it all goes back to a really key discovery made by one particular physician.
And that physician is Dr. Sota Omoigui. His background is pretty extensive. He's board-certified in anesthesia and pain medicine. He's been an advisor to the US FDA, and his research has over 1,000 citations on Google Scholar. So the point is, his work provides this really solid scientific foundation for the breakthrough we're going to get into.
Okay, so here it is. Here's the core scientific insight. Dr. Omoigui's work builds on research showing that in the very early stages of a crisis, the sickling of red blood cells is actually reversible. Yeah, you heard that right. With quick reoxygenation, they can pop back into their normal, healthy shape and start flowing freely again.
But, and this is absolutely crucial, there's a clock ticking. This reversibility doesn't last forever. It only exists within this critical window of opportunity, a window that Dr. Omoigui calls the golden half hour.
And that discovery led to this protocol, which is a really simple 3-step process that patients can do right at home. So first, they identify a trigger. Maybe it's stress or just that very first twinge of pain. Second, they have to start home oxygen therapy immediately, right inside that 30-minute window. And the result? The crisis can potentially be stopped in its tracks before it ever really takes hold.
The impact of this is it's profound. This whole approach completely flips the script. It transforms patients and their families from feeling like helpless bystanders into being empowered first responders who can take immediate, decisive action.
Okay, so the theory sounds great, but the big question is, does this actually work in the real world? Well, the answer seems to be a resounding yes, at least according to a ton of accounts from patients, parents, and doctors. So let's hear some of these voices. This first quote from a parent is wow. It's just staggering in its simplicity. 3+ months with an oxygen concentrator at home, and 3+ months with 0 crises, 0 pain. That is a complete turnaround. And here's another one. This is from a parent of a 4-year-old who, just the year before, had been hospitalized more than 6 times. Since they started the home oxygen, they haven't had a single hospitalization. For a little kid, that is a massive, life-altering change. And, it's not just anecdotal stories. There's data, too. This chart shows data from the clinic of a hematologist, Dr. Omoigui, after he started recommending this protocol. Just look at the drop. His monthly hospital attendances for crises plummeted from an average of over 15 all the way down to less than 5. We're also seeing the impact from the perspective of healthcare workers. This one nurse talks about a colleague who just couldn't believe how fast a patient's pain went away with oxygen. The speed of the relief was, shocking, even to people who are trained to see this stuff every day. And now let's hear directly from a patient. They were dealing with persistent chest pain, which is a really serious symptom, using standard painkillers. After just 15 minutes on oxygen, the pain was gone. That just speaks volumes about how fast and effective this can be. This protocol isn't just about preventing trips to the ER, it's about reclaiming a life. This parent points out that exams, a known stress trigger that used to cause traumatic pain, were completed without any complaints this time around. It lets people navigate normal, stressful parts of life without that constant fear. So the huge takeaway here is this.
We're not talking about some futuristic multi-million-dollar gene therapy. We're talking about oxygen, a simple, accessible tool. And just by applying it in this new, proactive way, it appears to be preventing immense suffering and fundamentally changing people's lives.
And that really brings us to one final crucial thought. The evidence we've just looked at is pretty compelling. The tool itself is accessible, the protocol is simple, so it kind of leaves us with this one big question. If a solution can be this straightforward, what does it really take to change a medical practice that's been locked in place for over 100 years?